Hello, Warlords. Welcome to Saga Thursday. I'm your host, Rodge. As always, the show is about the Saga Miniatures game universe by Studio Tomahawk with a few different flavors of miniature combat for you. I'm joined once again by my good chum, my boon companion, Monty here. How's it going,
Rodge,
Monty?
excellent. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. It's been a while since we last met. Usually it's 3 or 4 weeks. This one was a full fiver,
Yep.
but according to the Julian calendar, that's going to happen from time to time, my friend.
Yep.
So we are, for a main topic, we're going to talk about, do you need tokens to play Saga? So that might be obvious to some. The answer is yes. That's the short answer. But there's a lot you could get into with tokens. So we're going to get into that. We thought that was an interesting topic.
Mm-hmm.
We got some games, some paint chat. Monty's been busy enough for the both of us, hopefully. And we got some comments from last time. And then we're going to kick it off with some news and events here, Monty. So there's actually been quite a few interesting developments. So on the events front, I'm sad to report the Saga World Cup has canceled for this year. So the venue, Millennium Con, they shut it down. So that was where the World Cup was going to happen here. So obviously travel and stuff in the U.S. here can't quite get it right. So we're just going to keep doing our thing over here for a while. Maybe the Europeans are okay to do their own thing, but we're doing us. We're doing it American style. So that's sad. That's unfortunate, especially because it's just the second year. So hopefully it'll be back for year 3, stronger than ever, or year 2, depending how you want to look at that. So I'm sure Russ will give us all the details on that when that comes around. But yeah, not so good on the events there, Monty.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. That was tough, not unexpected, but still, you hold out this faint, unreasonable hope that maybe somehow the world will shift and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
So it goes.
Well, we can hope. We can hope. November maybe, but people got to book plane tickets and stuff like that. So obviously
right now
it becomes very difficult to plan that all out. So sad to hear, and hopefully we'll be back better than ever. We do have some interesting rules, age developments. So there's two things on the horizon, which we've talked about before: invasions and Age of Hannibal. So did you see the Age of Invasions nougat of knowledge?
A little bit. I mean, there's a lot of buzz about that'll be the next one to drop. But then I also in the last week saw someone saying they're having some issue play testing, like getting out and getting a game in to kind of, they want to give it a shakedown cruise and make sure that the boards are set before they print them out. And they're having a little bit of an issue with that. So.
Well, yeah, I could definitely see that. So, well, that's interesting that you heard that Invasions was next. The last thing I heard was Hannibal, and I know it's flip-flopped a couple times, so we just don't know. But
keeping us
the
guessing.
Interesting thing was Gripping Beast posted on their website, and they confirmed the number of factions was going to be, well, they had a numerical error, but then Fred came in and swooped in and clarified there's going to be 8 factions in Age of Invasions. So there's going to be 2 more than there was previously. So I think the rumor was there's going to be like a full 12 at some point. Do you remember that? Which kind of made, Vikings Crusades has 12.
Yeah.
But
8 is a good number. That's a nice opening spread.
Yeah, I think so, especially if you're mixing in some of the old friends, new enemies, the boards. You could have a real full universe there. So I don't think there's really any confirmation on what the new factions are, per se. So I'm guessing probably if you do have Aetius and Arthur and the old friends, new enemies section, I would think 2 of those are maybe promoted to full
Yep.
to full board status. Would be my guess, but
Good
I
guess.
don't really have any clue there. And then Age of Hannibal. So on our Saga Discord, there's been a huge info dump. So these are screenshots. Looks like from a Facebook. Is this a Facebook Messenger group?
It is.
Monty,
It
I
is
see
a
your name
Facebook.
on top here.
Yeah. But I was not the source. I was in the discussion, but not the source.
Yeah, so JP posted it. So it's a bunch of basically Age of Hannibal information. Sounds good. Sounds legit.
Yep.
So if you want to read about that, head on over to the Discord. There's really too much for us to nitpick over, but we have the Roman Hearthguards are on foot. Roman warriors are on foot or mounted. Roman levies have javelin. That kind of information is in there. Some interesting tidbits. So the factions confirmed in this. So do you know who said this stuff? Like a playtester or?
I do not. It's been a few days since I looked at it.
Okay.
I think they're kind of sussing it out. They might be picking up somewhere else. They're looking at the gripping beast, like photos, and also their miniature line to kind of like suss it out. But yeah, I think they've got a deep. Maybe they get something up off the French forum or something. It's hard to say. It all looked very logical to me. Like when what I know about ancient war bands and how they fought, I read the stuff. I'm like, this all makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it laid it out. I mean,
yeah,
it sounds legit. Sounds real.
Yeah.
So the factions listed here are Carthaginians, Romans, Gauls, Greeks, Iberians, and Numidians. So that's pretty cool. And then apparently the Greeks are a 3-for-1 for,
I think so.
You could see the Ptolemaic, Seleucid. I don't remember what the third one. Do you know what the third one is? The third successor state? That's the home base. Guys, I want to say Antiochus, but doesn't seem right. But that's what's in my mind. I'm sure somebody will chime in and let us know.
Yep.
But yeah, it looks. I was looking at it. It looks pretty cool. It looks like a lot of cool stuff in there. So not really any surprises, really, based off. Yeah, everything that you suspect is in there from what I was looking at. There were some mercs, the Cretan archers, the Balearic slingers. Nice. So I played a lot of Rome Total War. Did you play that one, Monty?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one that I really, one of those you lose yourself in, and that's the one that I went nuts on. So all of this is sounding good to me. That's the Samnites. All the same mercs from Rome Total War will be here.
Nice.
So it'll be cool.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. But still no release date as far as I can tell in here. But head on over to the Saga Discord and you don't need me to blather on about this. You can just read the knowledge yourself. And thank you. I think Delimbed commented with some additional information, and then JP was the original fellow posting screenshots. So very cool.
Nice.
All right, Monty. I'm pretty excited about that stuff, I will say.
I've wanted to paint 28mm Ancients for a long time, and this will be my gateway drug, I think.
Okay, so you've never
have I ever. Just 15mm. Loads and loads.
Yeah,
loads into 15mm, but 28 is just so nice. Can't wait to do it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that'll be cool. All right, we've got some comments from last time.
Yep.
I'll dig into just a few of these. Lord McBastard. A tabletop simulator tip is if you mouse over something and press Alt, it will expand the item so you can see it more clearly. This helps when reading battle boards that you're unfamiliar with. So thank you for that tip. That's always handy. So Monty, have you played any of the simulators since last time?
I want to get back on that train. I've actually been lucky with my socially distancing saga, so that's kind of bumped my tabletop Saga. But I really want to get back to it. I want to get better, because that's kind of how I think we'll be living for a while.
Sure. Yeah. Makes sense. Well, I had one scheduled, but then I got the opportunity for some social distance Saga gaming, so I had to.
Mm-hmm.
I was against delimbed on the Discord, so I had to apologize and push that back till August, so I could get some face to face, but distance gaming in. And I'll talk a little bit more about that game later. But so I haven't gotten any more Tabletop Simulator, and it is fun. Now, one thing is it really just makes me want to play a video game. By the time I'm done, fire up the Total War. Like, what am I doing with this analog stuff? I want to go digital. You know
right.
What I mean? But
it's very addicting.
All right. Thank you, Lord McMaster. Hercus Monty, great show. He's also been watching the NJM tutorials and picked up the oil paints. And so he's going to try out some of the techniques on his Age of Hannibal warband and a building. So hopefully that'll work out for him. So he paints quite a bit faster than me. So I'm excited to see what he can do on this stuff. That's really cool. And I will say, Hercus Monty, have you seen his Crusade series that he started on his channel?
Yes, love them.
Yeah, so those are really well done.
Right.
I looked at the editing, and he put a lot of work in there, a lot of time. So definitely head on over, check those out. Those are great if you're a newbie, and then also if you're thinking about a war band or just good Saga entertainment. There's just not too much out there, so. He's got at least 3 of them now, Monty. Is that right?
Yeah, for the Crusades. He's got some other stuff too, I think. Did he do Cuman's? I know there's some other ones that can. And the nice thing for anyone who hasn't listened before is he gets you in and out in about under 15 minutes. So it's a very focused little historical backstory and then right into the board and the gameplay very quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're really well done. Highly recommend those. And then last comment we got Ben French. He's piping in. He says, love the Yams, one of the only lists IMO that can get away with 6 units of Hearthguard, split into 4 groups of 6 is what he likes. And he goes for 5 Saga dice. They're hard to shoot and hard to combat with no special weapons. And cool, that sounds awesome. So
yes,
I did get another game in with my Yams, and I'll pipe in about that. But I'm liking the Hearthguard with these guys, I will say, Monty.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, cool. Well, thank you guys. I think that's enough comments for a while on the last video. As always, just pipe in with anything. It doesn't even have to be Saga related. If you're curious about Monty's personal life, he'll answer anything on if you just make a comment about it.
Sure, why not?
All right, you heard it here, folks. Yeah, so anything Saga related, doesn't even have to be related to what we're talking about, but if you have questions about anything, pipe below. We'll respond to you with a comment for sure, and maybe in the video next time.
Exactly. I love the comments, Rodge. There's such a big, wide Saga world, and we live in it, we paint in it, we game in it, but that's our little part of the world, and other people have different experiences, different ideas, different approaches, and that's exactly what I love so much with comments, feedback, and other points of view.
Absolutely. So I would have never thought about 4 units of 6 Hearthguard. That's madness, Monty.
Yeah, it does, but it works for him, and now you want to go give it a try.
Yeah, I mean, because you ran the Viking Hearthguard list, and it worked out all right. Like it was perfect. It was interesting. Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, it was. It made me rethink some of my negative thoughts on Hearthguard heavy. It can work in certain situations with certain warbands and play styles. Yeah,
absolutely. And then too, I think with Saga, it seems like you play your war band, and then you have your little setup that you like, and then you never change it. I don't know. It seems like that's more in Saga than any other game I've played. Once you got your little setup, you don't change it. And then you play your buddy who never changes his setup. And then so if you could do that same matchup a few times, it can get a little stale. So people usually switch boards. But another thing you do is just switch your list, try it out. Try the Hearthguard, man.
Exactly.
Try the 3 levies. Let it rip. But okay. Well, let's get to some painting picks here. Monty, so people who know you have probably seen this majestic photo op here, but we're looking at a whole mess of Byzantines here, and they look amazing. They look great, Rodge. Man. These are wonderful.
Well, so the last drop, so to speak, went pretty well. It was 24 mounted, but I did something different. For airbrushing, I put the riders on like wine corks and then did the horses by themselves, and I did them in groups of 12. And so the first one was a little bit of a slog, and then when I got to the second one, once I got my ass in the chair and started painting, it went pretty quickly. And at the finish line, right, once you do get the faces, get the skin, get those shield transfers on and a little bit of color, boy, that iconography pops kind of nicely.
Yeah, that really ties it all together, man. Like,
I was very happy.
They look so good.
Oh, thanks. Because there were times when I was like, it was not quite at the level that I was hoping to hit. But when you bring it all together and you got all the shields, you got everything, and you put it out, it's like, yeah, I was happy. I was happy to be done. And already, I have some stuff queued, but I'm not rushing off to anything. I'm kind of taking just a little time to read and not paint, and then I'll jump back in.
Sure. Okay. So you said you airbrush. Did you just base coat with the airbrush mainly?
Yeah.
Did you try anything?
So by the time I got to the Hearthguard, I was a little better with my brush. What I was doing this go round was, remember with my my foot figures, I was having trouble because I already had based them and I couldn't quite get the angle in. And I don't really have a precision brush, or perhaps I just don't have a precision touch, right? Like you do for sure. So I was having a little trouble with that under shading, but I was able to do that with these Hearthguard. I brought them down to like a bone color, and then I brought in kind of a darker red from underneath, and under the arms and back up the robes a little bit, and then came in with the red, and then did some white and then red over it. So it did seem like the Hearthguard got closer to what I was hoping it would be, with like a little color differential, a little shading the airbrush. So very happy with the results.
Yeah, I think I can see that now. Cool.
Yeah, the levy was not quite, it was satisfactory, but anyways.
So
I tell you what, I learned a lot, using the airbrush, and I felt much better by the time I got to the Hearthguard. I think I mentioned I had a massive catastrophe that just kind of took the wind out of my sails. But you know what? No catastrophes. My last 2 sessions with the mounted figures went down very nicely. I even used it to start the horses, like the kind of,
that's going to be my question.
Yeah, I did. And then I did, then I came in just because it's me. The shading was pretty subtle. So I brought in a brush and just popped it up just to get it that, 3-foot pop.
Yeah, they look great, man. Nice
work.
Yeah,
thanks.
I'm loving the yellows throughout. That's sort of what I like best about these, I would say.
Yeah, sneak in some color themes, right? Especially with the Byzantines, as they would say. You can kind of cheat and say, well, that empire had a little bit of money, not enough for armor, but everyone gets a red one. Everyone gets a painted yellow spear. Everyone gets nice iconography on their shields.
It looks like the Hearthguard's got a little more blue than the rank and file too. Or it might just be the angle here, but yeah, it looks.
Yep. I think so, like on the saddle blankets and stuff. Just, I didn't want them to be too much. Yeah. Just a little extra color at the finish line. Kind of went wild. But it is nice to be done, and I've gotten to put them out on the table twice, and that really helps. Seriously, Rodge. Like, I got a game in, and then I came back, and I just, like, I had wind in my sails. I was like, okay, we're going to finish this and we're not going to screw around. So sit down and let's see if we can get them finished.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome, man. Nice work.
Thanks.
So, like I mentioned, you've been busy enough for both of us, my friend. So I do have a picture of Shame here. It's a necromancer for God tier. So I painted his minions last time. So he was already started, and all I got done was a base coat, essentially. So I don't know if you could tell, but I'm kind of hit or miss every month here. I have a new thing going on. So after last week's video, I did a little base work on him, got a base coat done, and then there's like a little Rocky banner, they call it. So that's pretty much all I got done because, I don't know, I'm kind of branching out in my creative pursuits, Monty. So,
ooh, what are you doing?
Well, a couple of years ago, I like to think of myself as a creative guy. So I have a lot of pokers in the fire. And at some point, I kind of mentally just said, you can't do everything. Just concentrate on the models stuff. And then, if you could do the videos too, that's fine. So that's what I've been doing. But then, with the current situation, with COVID and stuff and lack of gaming. Now, I did get some gaming in, but I found a lot of my motivation is tied with the gaming.
Right.
So it's kind of giving me a kick in the nads there as we go along here. And so actually for this month, I've been doing a little creative fiction, Monty. I wrote 4 short stories. I've been doing one a week for a writing contest. So that's something I've always thought about but set aside. So I picked it up again here. So there's a website called Readsy where there's like a weekly writing contest. So you can just submit every week. They give you a couple prompts and then you kind of pick something based off that. And so I've been spending my time in the mornings, the little bit of free time I've been using for that.
Awesome.
It's pretty cool. I think there's some parallels with painting. It's kind of tedious. I'm very slow at it, just like my painting, but you feel a sense of accomplishment when you're done.
Right.
And it's pretty fun. The goal was to finish them, and I finished 4 of them. So
wow,
just finishing them feels pretty good. So that's kind of the goal.
Yeah,
so
that's huge.
We'll see if that continues here. I'm not, like I said, they're finished stories, Monty. The quality, my wife likes them, so
there you go.
They got to be good. My wife likes them.
Can I ask, is there a genre, sci-fi?
Sure. So, one of them is a sci-fi. One of them is a fantasy. One is like in a real world.
Okay.
With, just normal real world story. I did one of those. It was a bit of a stretch for me, but I did it. And then one was like a horror story.
Okay.
So you can write whatever you're feeling, and so I'm trying it out. Seeing what sticks. It's pretty hard writing a short story because
it is.
I've read, short story anthologies and stuff, and you read a short story and you're like, that's pretty good, but like, I don't know, what was the point of it? It seems like that was my reaction a lot. So these stories, I like to think they're decent, and by the time you get to the end, you'd probably be like, well, I don't know what the point of that was, but they're finished. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. I'm hoping to work in this necromancer guy. So I think I got a pretty good flow. I do want to keep writing for a little while, but 1 month from now, we'll see what's going on with me, Monty. But I think I can do it during the week, and then on the weekends, there's like a little break, and then I can do a little painting. Now I am getting a little bit more gaming in here, so that might turn me around on the whole thing, and I might set down the pen at that time. But yeah, that's what I'm working on. So
That's awesome.
yeah, that's pretty cool. But let's get back into some Saga chat, shall we?
Sure.
So you played a couple games. Do you want to talk about one of your games here?
Yeah. So just by way of background, I thought I would mention that in the Twin Cities, we have a giant gaming store called Fantasy Flight Games Event Center. They have like the main floor, and then they have an event room, which is as big as the main floor. It's palatial when you put the two sides together. And what they've done is they've removed probably more than half of their tables. They keep both sides open, and you can go in there, you make a reservation, you mask up, you do the little hand sanitizer when you come in. You can meet your bud there if you feel comfortable. And for some of my buddies, that's like a nice central location. A few of my friends are fine with that. We mask up. We play in mask the whole time. It's not outside. I mean, I know outside's the best. But right next to that, I, at this point, feel comfortable doing that. So I have got a couple games in. My first one, I got to play my buddy Brent with my new Byzantines. Cool. And we played Desecration, which is, I love Desecration. Desecration is the one where you put out 3 objective markers, and then your opponent puts out 3, and you each are trying to pop your opponent's markers at the same time you're trying to defend yours, and you can cluster them, you can spread them out.
And if I'm thinking this right, this is the one where you don't get points for killing them, but it caps your point.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you don't kill any of theirs, you can only ever score 12 massacre points or something like that.
Bingo. And it's an interesting riddle because you're trying to beat your buddy's army, but you're also trying to defend, but you're also trying to pop the objectives, and they're not a guaranteed thing to pop them. And I have played games where I get too caught up in the game of destroying my opponent's army, and then I make a late push and I don't pop the objectives, and you lose the game because you didn't get enough. So it's always a very tense game. It's always fun. It's always like just goes right down to the wire. And so what was interesting was, so I brought out my levy heavy build, 2 units of 12 shield and spear levy, 1 unit of crossbow levy, 1 unit of bow levy, and then 2 mounted hearth guard. So that's going to be tough to move, right? Yeah. It'll also be tough for me to move. I knew that was a risk, but I painted them. I wanted to play them. My buddy brought out Crusaders, and he countered with like a unit of pilgrims. So he has some levy himself, 1 mounted hearth guard, and then everything else was warriors, and they were shooting warriors. I think his goal was he was going to try to use he was going to try to use the Crusader's ability, the Peasant's Crusade, which lets you activate all your warriors plus your pilgrims for 2 dice, and this mass activation does not generate fatigue. So I think what he was thinking about was he was going to try to like shoot me and then activate everything and then shoot me again and try to go toe-to-toe on the shooting front. So I'll kind of spin through it real quickly. Turn 1, I'm player 1. I activate and I move my whole warband up the table. Got to get hustling, right? And in my buddy's turn, his build generated 8 dice. He threw 8 dice. He picked up 4 common and 4 rare dice. And without an uncommon, he couldn't use his mass act ability, nor a number of other key Crusader abilities. So he did a bunch of just raw, straight up shooting. I diced out of most of it. And in my turn, I get my dice, I throw them. It's just almost all uncommons, and uncommons make the Byzantine board sing, and it also activates your levies. So I looked at his shooters, I looked at all my uncommons, I piled it up, and I hyper-activated my levy units for shooting. I put out 30 shots for the turn, and his army withered under the 30 shots.
Yeah,
I mean, what are you going to do?
The warriors are 3 up against shooting, right, if they have bows?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think they're 3/4s, so they're 4 against shooting, but I mean 30 shots. I mean, it was just plus my crossbow, right? My crossbow, I shot it twice. I shot it, I moved it, I shot it. I had that many dice, I had that many activations, and it was just his warband melted. So another turn of that, really hot Saga dice for me. And we called it early simply because the middle of his army was just gone and there was just nothing that he was going to do. So so that went really fast. I'm not sure what it teaches us, except that it's hard to match the Byzantine if you decide to go toe-to-toe with their shooting strength. And also, I mean, it's kind of skewered because normally, I mean, what if I'd thrown all commons? I wouldn't have been able to put out that kind of firepower at all, or even half, right? It was just kind of an odd outlier. So for my second game, I met my buddy Scott, and he brought his mutts down. His mutts have Matatawia have not seen the light of day for quite some time. And we played Guard the Loot. So it's another one, a little like Desecration. Each side puts out 3 objectives. You take turns putting them out. And what's really cool is there's this fog of war. When I put my objectives out that he's going to be chasing, I put like an A, B, and C numbers, and they're worth variable amounts. So he doesn't know which of the 3 is the home run. He doesn't know which one is the least. And you have to put like one halfway, a little more than halfway up the table, you know, one close to your half and one that can be within 6. But there's a little bit of this fog of war. So anyways, we put our 6 objectives out. And I got to tell you, it's been a long time since I played the Mutts, and I remember why they're going to always be wild and woolly and fun. His build was mostly Hearthguard. He had 4 points of Hearthguard. 2 of those were in camel units, and that was difficult for my mounted, Byzantine Hearthguard. They didn't like them camels at all, right? And he had 2 points of warriors split into 3 units, so they were weak, but not really weak because that mutt board has the ability to just dish hits and kill things, right? So as soon as we go, same thing. I'm player 1 again, so I hustle my whole army across the board. I'm getting up there, and he just starts slinging double attacks every turn. The camel unit charges 12, can move 12, and then its next move is 6. And he's got like Jins, so he can charge his foot units 12 inches. So if he had to, he'd double move into charges. He'd throw his wild and woolly, lower his armor and blow me up. And it was, we were trading wild punches. He would blow up my units. I'd blow him up. And if he survived, then I'd pour the Byzantine shooting on whoever the survivor was. So, but I think his general strategy was he knew that the Byzantine board is good. He knew I didn't want to have a lot of dice. He took out my mounted very early with his camels, just hunted them down and happily traded them because that was my speedy units. And once he did that, now I'm running around the table with 4 levy units plus a warlord who is on foot, but I'm kind of hiding them because these Matatawi are just monsters at killing everything they.
So he can play a little looser. You have no striking power, no speed with hitting. He can.
Exactly. It was interesting, for people who worry, I know I've heard some buzz, people the Byzantines, they're very good. Well, they are very good, but make no mistake, they have to earn their victories and they have their shortcomings. And the way Scott played it was really to perfection. He took out my speed, and then there was a moment I was up and not that it counted, but I was up in slaughtering, his ferocious attacks and my ferocious shooting was bleeding his army out faster than I was losing mine. But then there came a moment where I have a unit of levy archers, a unit of levy shield and spear, and a warlord who's bouncing back and forth, kind of buffing them up, and we obey and getting ready. So he moved up 2 Hearthguard figures, and he played Allah Akbar, and he lifted 2 Hearthguard, took them right off the table, so he gets 6 dice. And with a Hearthguard figure, he is going to hit me on 5s and 6s and deal auto hits that can't be blocked, right? Or deal hits. So his first roll, he gets 2 hits. I'm like, that's okay. That was pretty good rolling. He won't get 2 hits the next time. And he takes 3 dice, he shakes them up, rolls it out, 2 hits. My warlord's dead. He dishes fatigue left and right. I've lost my Wiobe, I've lost my Saga die. And that hole where my warlord was exactly where his warlord shoots through on the 5th turn, on his last die, on his last roll. He hits my unit that's holding one of the key objectives. They just lose enough figures to drop it. And then we roll to see if the game goes to turn 6. Oops, the game's over, and Scott wins. So,
Oh,
good job,
wow.
Scott.
That's
Nicely played.
amazing.
He's bold. Let me say that.
Yeah, he went for it. He
I
saw
know.
what you had, Monty, and he
I
took
thought
it.
I had it. I mean, seriously, you have those games. You're like, you look at the situation. You look at my dice. My Saga dice were small, but I mean, he was bled out badly, and he's like, no problem. We're gonna get you.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Anyways, it was fun.
Great
It was
game.
fun.
Yeah, exciting game. I would have loved to have seen that.
And Rodge, for me, like you just said, this really, these 2 games with my new army, this really lit a fire on me because I had been distracted, and I'm playing, my PS4 and, reading a book, but I'm not up in my painting room a lot. And like once I got these games under my belts, I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling it. And so I that's what gave me the wind I needed to finish this warband. So.
Oh, glad to hear. That's awesome. Were they fully painted?
Yeah.
In both of those? Or
So my
the one
first
get burnt?
game, I used a proxy. I grabbed just 8 Hearthguard figures from another warband.
Mhm.
So we stuck. I didn't have a warlord either, so that was a proxy. But by the time this one came, I had everything but the warlord. My second game against Scott, I had everything but the warlord. So yeah,
Awesome.
but it helped.
Yeah, definitely.
Lots of fun.
Getting some good games in with your boys, learning the ropes.
Yep.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear. Well, I got in a game as well, Monty. Zach came over to my
Nice.
garage. It's 3-car garage, Monty. It's quite ample. I will say. So I set up the board in the middle, parked the cars out on the driveway, and then so we set up the table, and then we just had our chairs, basically 6 feet behind the board, and then the table in the middle was a couple folding tables, so he could stand at the battlefield was in the middle. I mean, you'll see this in the photo. And then at either end, we had our little dice rolling area, so we could still roll at the same time and still be over 6 feet away. Now, he's like a first shifter, early riser, and so this was when the heat wave, humidity was going on. So he
Right.
came over at 6 a.m. to play, to try and beat the heat. It did
Yep.
get a little muggy still, but that worked pretty well. It was pretty nice. Still in the 70s Fahrenheit there. So he was playing. He just wanted to get back into it. So he played with the Vikings. Those are the Men of Wessex that I sold him.
Right.
So he got those guys out, and then I was using the my new Eastern Heathen guys. So about half of them were painted from before. So I ran those as Yams, and so that was my second game. I had a tabletop simulator game that I talked about last time. So yeah, it went well. Just a couple things to mention. So it was interesting. So the Berserkers, Monty, so we talked about this. It didn't matter. We didn't think about it until halfway through the game, but due to Nordic Tempest, obviously it's easy for the Yams to target the Berserkers.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, you probably should have just used regular Hearthguard. And then I was like, well, are those, can you just swap them? They're not equipment. So at Adepticon, for players who play Viking, do they have to write Berserkers down on the list, or can they just write Hearthguard, or has it never come up?
Yeah, so we've gone both ways. Generally, I think simply to make it simple for the organizers and the person who's running the day, we've kind of had lock lists. I know the UK, they really like bring 7, play 6, but lately we've been moving towards declare your equipment at the table as you're deploying.
Yeah,
yeah, and I think that would give you the choice to.
Yeah, so the wording on it is Viking Hearthguards have no equipment options. One unit of Hearthguards may be nominated as a unit of
Okay.
Berserkers. So it says it doesn't say when. It just says you may upgrade one of your units. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I would allow it.
Obviously for a friendly game, if you had wanted to.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about in like an event, and so I was curious how you did it, if you remembered at the last ACON.
Yeah, I remember, like, to your very point, I remember I faced in one of my games the Yoms, and I had Welsh, and my Welsh could be on ponies or off. And when I knew I was fading the Yoms, I said, okay, get those guys off their ponies. He's going to just shoot those Hearthguard, and they're going to go down trying, right?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, as it was, I targeted those guys. He did kind of have them hunker down. So even if you choose to take him, he had a forest on his side, so at least he was blocking on threes. But then I was like, well, we were doing the cards options at the beginning, so the terrain wasn't fully customizable. We had a couple swanties and some woods naturally, but so I guess if you knew you were playing the Yam, you could just make sure you had hard ground or something, just camp your guys out, the berserkers in the hard ground, and just let them go after it. Maybe he'll get them, maybe he won't. But I thought that was an interesting tidbit there.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear if your gaming group, if that's come up, and if you do it one way or the other. So this game went well. I smacked him around a little bit, as we do with Zachy boy there, but it was interesting. So he had a critical juncture. He didn't get any uncommons with the Vikings, so there's a few attack abilities he could do, but he can't. If he can do everything, he can kill me better than I can kill him with the Yams. But so on the key turns, basically, he didn't get any Bs. And so what I was doing with the Yams was feeding Fury of the Pagans, so that's the triple activation. So I was making sure that I always left at least one B on there, stacking it up. So like if you are playing levies or monsters, and those are integral to your list, just leaving it on there just so you can guarantee that you have it at least once for the next turn. So that was part of my plan there. And so it worked out. I mean, there was like, I think turn 3 or maybe 4, so a heavy combat turn. I didn't roll any Bs either, but I still had one from previous with Fury of the Pagan, queued up. So it let me do my thing. But otherwise, the Yams are pretty B heavy people there, Monty. I noticed. A storm rises, so the fatigue ability is the Bs. And then if you do want to queue up Appeal to the Gods, that's also a B. So it's kind of hard to B it up. And then what I did with the rares was, before I put those into Pagan Faith first, well, I feel like you get more bang for your buck by loading up Punishment first. So that's the one where you can cancel, or they take the 4 Wrath tokens. So that's one that they have to play around, even if you never do it, because they make sure they always have extra activate. An experienced player will play around it and allocate to activations, and you kind of win already doing that. So
agree.
And then I think, this is a good ability with Pagan Faith. The 6 attack or defense versus 3 is pretty good, but I feel like loading up Punishment first, I think, is the way to go.
Yeah,
for the Yams.
Good call.
And it's good because if they do cancel it, you actually get a buttload of Wrath tokens too. You get 4.
That's sweet.
Some of them with these other ones, they can let one go because still like 1 or 2 like isn't really gonna do much for you. So he ended up letting me take the Wrath at one point, and it's kind of weird that I look at these the Wrath abilities, I'm really not that impressed with what you get for your Wrath. I mean, Holmgang's pretty good. But then you're using all the Wrath up on that one attack.
Right.
So I wasn't sure. I ended up using Hammer of Thor just to get my Warlord in there. So he can absorb. I thought that was good because that's like an auto absorb wounds. So auto hits and auto wounds are always really good. So I thought that was, I think that one's pretty worth it, but you do need a rare for that. So my army composition on this one was 3 units of, or actually 4 units of 6 warriors, just a hand weapon shield, and then 3 units of 4 Hearthguard.
Nice.
And I liked those little Hearthguard packs. So the +1 armor ability stacks great. Being able to close ranks and then add 2 defense dice with combat bonus makes them super survivable. And then I was kind of doing that too with the warriors. So I go in with 6, do my Pagan Faith, get extra attacks, do some damage, and I got a few left. And then if he attacks them, I can close ranks. And even if I don't use the combat bonus, I can still close ranks. And then so I got the 1 or 2 left. And then when I go next, I'll throw those 1 or 2 guys in to put another fatigue on them, and then send my Hearthguard in.
Nice.
So, I thought I would really prefer the heavy weapons on the warriors, but I'm curious. I might use a mix. I think in future games I'll probably try that with my next game. I think a mix of both.
Yeah.
But yeah. So more thoughts on the Yoms? Yeah. What do you?
Yeah, just real quick. What? Okay, you're using Fear of the Pagans, right? And you got to get the bees. If you come a bee short, that's a struggle. But boy, that multi-activation. So what about like if you're getting just 1, 2, or 3 Wrath? How about Song of Steel? You could activate 3 units to move, and they don't get fatigue, and they also get a shot.
So, yeah, that one. It's a good ability. I think that one's kind of a trap because you are. Well, it kind of depends on the order that you're doing things. So, by the time you get Wrath, you're basically already in melee range. So if you use this, you're going to be using it to move instead of fight.
Correct.
Now, it doesn't generate a fatigue, so you could use it after a fight as well. Just kind of cream on top of your fight there. Shooting is also can be you could plan your whole turn around that and then not hit anything, or they block them all.
Which happens.
So Zach would play the Yoms, and I would give him some Wrath from time to time, and he would use it on Song of Steel, and I was fine with them using Song of Steel because I'd rather them shooting and maybe not doing anything versus coming into combat and definitely getting a bucket of attacks. So I think there is merit to that one. It's nice. It is a common, so you can, it's not an either or proposition.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still get.
Maybe it's better in a scenario where you need to up and move. Like, for example, either of the 2 I played, Desecration or Protect the Loot, you need to move. So if, as the Yoms, you're moving and then, they deny your movement, you go, guess what? I'm moving anyways because you gave me that 1 Wrath, and I'm going to spend an F, and I'm going to still move 6 inches towards my objective or wherever you needed to put them. And by the way, we'll also pop some shots on you. So, I don't know. Situational, like so much of Saga.
Yeah, well, that one I think is probably the best one if you just have 1 or 2 points. Because with Holmgang is the other kind of good one. Hammer of Thor is a rare, so you're not really moving the needle with your Wrath tokens on those. But Song of Steel, I mean, you're still getting units activated. So, yeah.
Well, good times.
Yeah, it was good. Fun game. Interested in getting a couple more. Like I said before, it's real quick playing these guys. So if you're on a time limit, these are the guys for you. So good.
Perfect. Sounds awesome, Rodge.
All right. Well, let's get into the main topic, shall we?
Yeah.
My friend. So, do you need tokens to play Saga? So, the answer is yes, like I said. So, the Jomsvikings need tokens. You need Wrath tokens, Monty.
Yes, you do.
You don't need many. You could probably play a few games, and you might not even need them, depending on who you're playing. So, the Yoms have Wrath tokens. I don't think anybody else has tokens built in the current edition. Obviously, fatigue tokens are what you need, your bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna up on the Rodge Rules website. I have tokens that I've made, and people can print these out. And so I like basically the bottle cap stickers. You put them on there. I think Monty, we've played games. You've probably seen these.
Yeah, they look awesome.
So the tokens that I'm talking about, you can pop on over there if you want some tokens. Because I've got so many more tokens than just fatigue tokens, Monty. But with fatigue, so what do you use for fatigue tokens, Monty?
I have some MDF little tokens. I think they come with
shields.
Gripping Beasts. Yeah, just little Gripping Beasts. Not too big. Yeah.
GB sells the shields. You could use loose, like actual shields from models.
Right.
So I had some other tokens that I used prior to these bottle cap tokens, which were about some wood, MDF, whatever, 1-inch rounds on eBay, and then you can I printed out these kind of like Celtic crosses so it's white on black, and then I made one. So they're all white and black except for one, which was golden and black. Do you know why I did that, Monty?
What warband was this for?
These were for like my Men of Wessex. I use them all the time.
Okay. Man, I'm stumped. Gold.
Monty, that's
golden.
Well, maybe this is more first edition Saga with plowing your warlord in real close with his boys, but the golden one was the warlord's fatigue pile. So you just have the gold one on top.
Oh.
So, if you got your battle line and you got your fatigue pile, so you could look into having a couple, maybe one or two different colors at least, just to differentiate between your units, because
right, good,
depending how close they are, that could be something that people find useful, I think. So I always had the gold one. If you had two or three, the gold one would always be the one on top, so you would know that was the warlord's fatigue.
Right.
And so my current fatigue tokens, they are double-sided. So I have like a color fatigue, and then on the other side it's gray. And then so I can differentiate that way. And then the other thing you can do is if they were exhausted, if you had three, I'd flip them over to the gray side. And then, the gray means to me that they're exhausted. So there's like an extra level
I like
of tokenizing their tokenation.
Are we still talking about Saga?
We're Monty. We talk about nothing
Sorry.
but Saga here, tokenation.
There we go.
So do you, Monty, use any other token? So let's stick with historical right now, and then we'll get into the age of magic, where obviously there's a greater need. But
I do, especially for events. First game you're good, second game you're starting to wear down, third game, okay, what am I doing? So these aren't beautiful, and I actually want to look at your your work, see if that's something I can do. But I've taken a little black plastic 25 millimeter base and just wrote in their determination and we obey, because believe it or not, in a big, long, weedy
Exactly.
turn, one of my buddies are like, wait, how did you, did you use, and so you keep track of it. I have it down. And once he spends his we obey, I take it off the table, and then it's clear to everyone that that's done. And then I take his determination away once the warlord has moved himself for his free move. The one other one that I find very useful, and I think over time my friends have kind of adapted it, is like, you get into these things where, okay, you're a 5, I'm a 4, now you spend my armor, now you use this ability, and you have this kind of up and down thing going. And it's also important that if there's a heavy weapon, it is exhaustion, you need to keep track of the base.
Needs to be properly noted.
Right? Exactly. So I one of the guys who comes out to Adepticon gave me like a little shield that holds 2 dies, and the arrow says, your armor, enemy's armor, and then I put it out right next to the thing, and then as we do our armors up and armors down, we record it on the die, and then off to the side I'll put a +1, -1 to make it crystal clear.
Yeah, so definitely I agree. Yeah, if you are starting out or even a veteran, having those out there is handy. Obviously, you can just use a dice without a special base, but the key is you have to notate the heavy weapon and the exhaustion separately. You can't. You're just gonna get messed up if you factor it in at the beginning.
Right.
I mean, you could do it at the end, but you have to remember on top of it again. So, having an extra token that says +1 or -1 that you can set down next to those is huge. And then, like you said, the wheelbase and determinations. We all make mistakes. Just having the tokens out there. I use those, especially if you have if you have a priest.
Oh, yeah.
And so this gets into Age of Magic, obviously, when you have multiple heroes, sorcerers with determinations, we obeys. Having those out there, and then pulling them, or whatever system you use. You could also put them actually on your board. So I've done that before. I'll have your activation dice, warlord or something, and then the we obey will be sitting in the warlord pool or the determination, so you could notate it that way if you didn't want to actually put them out on the battlefield. For a while, Monty, I actually used maneuver tokens because I was forgetting about it so much. So at the start of my turn, so this wasn't foolproof, but I would see who was eligible to maneuver at the start of my turn. And I would put a little maneuver token next to those guys, and then that would just remind me that I could do it. And then if I activated or maneuvered, I pulled it. Now, it's not foolproof because you can maneuver at any point during your turn. So just because you can't maneuver at the start of the turn doesn't mean you couldn't do it later if you've moved units. So it's not 100% foolproof, but it got me in the habit of thinking about maneuvers, so I think there could be some merit there.
That's brilliant.
For newbies. So I think the last thing is the orders abilities. Monty, do you know what I'm getting at here?
So there are orders abilities that raise up armor. The Welsh, I do use tokens with the Welsh when they do the whole army activates, and I think the Normans have something like that too. And so again, in a weedy, you want to make sure, wait, who moved? Did they all move? So I think that might be another time where even if you just put down some little thing to show like this unit moved or I intend to move these units, or even like you with your Fury of the Pagans, if you're going to be doing 1, 2, 3 and you say I'm activating this one, this one, and this one, and then you decide I'm going to do this one first, this one second, this one third, you might even drop 1, 2, 3s behind them, and then your opponent cancels none, and then you proceed to go number 1, number 2, number 3.
That's a great idea, yeah, because if you have an elaborate drawn out combat to start, you'd be like, all right, did I do this warrior unit or this one here? Yeah. So that's a great point. So I was kind of alluding to two things. So one is having some kind of token. So frequently I just have like a blank shield token. So when I activate an order's ability, I'll just put the shield down just to show that you did it.
That it's spent,
so you
and
don't,
it's up.
Whatever, try to use it again.
Agree.
Depending what it is, it'll remind you that way. And then you could also get some kind of token, depending on what units are affected on the board. It could be, if it affects everybody, you're not going to put a token next to everybody, but if certain units are affected or certain units get an ability, you could put just a little blank token or something customized next to those.
Good idea.
So that's, I think for historical Saga, I think that covers most of the tokens. And so I have like kind of made all these things at one point, so I'll have them posted. So yeah, Monty, did you learn something new? Intrigued here by the tokens?
Yeah, I know you said it could be for new players, but you'd be surprised. You meet up your buddy, you crack open a beer, may be starting to go down an empty stomach, you put your troops out. I'm player one. I'm already grumbling about being player one, and then I forget about maneuvering. I mean, really, you're player one. I mean, that is your advantage, is to shift to the left or shift to the right. Just putting those out there so that, I'm just unpacking my workday, and there you go. Just that's what these things kind of are, is that depending on where you're at and how things are going, to just kind of help focus you and make it clear.
You're kind of like offloading. Some RAM, some brain power, cognitive load. Monty, you could probably read that in a book somewhere.
Yep.
And I think like with the maneuver thing, I started using the tokens, and then after 3 or 4 games,
you
kind of build like a muscle memory, and then, and I gave them away to Zach, so he's got them now. So spread the love. So that's just for Storgal. Now, Age of Magic, I think we both found there's a greater need. And so to go back to the orders thing, so with Age of Magic, you definitely need some kind of additional token. So like with the other world, you have an orders ability that gives a very specific buff to one single unit. So you need to make a note of that somehow, either activating or putting a marker on the board. But so what I do is, there's so many with Age of Magic. There's so many different abilities and spells that you can get into, and everything that you could make a specific token for one specific ability, but what I ended up doing was having +1 armor, -1 armor, resilience 2, resilience 3. There's a lot of abilities that'll increase or lower resilience. So those are 2 of the other world orders ability. You can give a unit armor and resilience. So I would put those tokens down next to those guys when I use those. So Monty, you played the Great Kingdoms. So obviously you probably had a slew of we obey and determination markers, I'm guessing.
You need them. You need them to keep track with all the lieutenants and, all the determination for your paladin and your sorcerer. Yeah, there's a little bit to keep track of there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then with the spells, it gets a little nutty too, because if you have the spell cards, you can get away. If you don't have the spell cards, you're kind of screwed.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to write on a piece of paper, or else you're not gonna be able to get it. So with the spell cards, at least, when you get the effects, the problem is there's 3 different effects, so you have to put the dice down too. So making a token to represent that is very difficult, which is kind of when I went to the generic ones. So I kind of had these generic tokens, like I said, +1 armor, resilience, whatever, and that covered a lot of the gamut. What I also made was tokens that said Titan.
Right.
I can't think of Scourge, and what's the third one? Behemoth, and then the creatures, because one, there's a spell where you could transform your wizard into one, so you could just put that token down. Two, with the monsters, it's not always obvious what your intent is, so having that down could be a player aid for both of you.
Agree.
So that's something I had there. Warlord on a beast, could look very similar to a monster. So I think some tokens like that could be handy. And then I also had just some terrain ones made that said hardcover, low terrain, high terrain. So I think there's two benefits there. One, there's some of the life spells or create terrain. So just having the chits down there with the terrain is handy. And then also you could just play with just the outlines of the terrain piece. Like if you got Saga on the go, like you said, with the steep hills and the hills, it's kind of better just to have something flat that you use to call the hill. And then you could just put down the little token that says hill or steep hill on it. So I think having some terrain tokens could be beneficial too. Sometimes although between a rocky ground and a steep hill, it's not clear, Monty, necessarily which is which.
Right.
So having some terrain tokens I think could be handy. And then like we said, the spell cards, those are kind of like tokens. I think you definitely need those or want those for Age of Magic just to send them out. But those are some additional ideas I had, Monty.
I like them.
Am I missing anything here?
I think you got them. I was going to do the steep hill, but you beat me to it. I would just say no, that's good. So just for something different, I had been hoping to attend the U.S. Saga World Cup in Texas, and they had a rule about bring your own terrain. So I bought the Playmats. I think it's called Playmats series. It's mouse pad terrain, very flat, and so when you drop a big hill out, and it's a mouse pad, 2D. Which hill is it? So I got a steep hill marker. So if I want to make it steep, I just put the marker down. If I want it to be hill, it's just a hill. So yeah, you got it.
Cool. Yeah, that's an awesome terrain set. I should pick those up. Those would be nice.
Yeah, it's light for when you need to travel. And so when I'm coming down to the club, I immediately have dropped a few pounds in my rocky ground, my ruins, everything is resin and kind of heavy. So it's not, 3D is beautiful, but it is not unattractive, and it's super light, and you won't chip any of your figures if you tip them over in the terrain.
There you go, yeah. Get them, take it on the plane easily.
Right,
exactly. If your luggage is full, you can just slap them to your body underneath your shirt, and then just go through the thing there. Yeah.
That'll turn out like the movie Midnight Run, where they're going to separate you. Think you are carrying something inappropriate.
Yeah, Saga World Cup in Istanbul.
Exactly.
Next to your Monty. You won't see him again.
Never seen again.
Oh, that's funny.
Right.
That was one of my buddy's favorite movies.
It's a good one.
The hashish.
Yeah, not sure what the main character was thinking, but there you go.
Yeah, made a good movie. But,
anyway.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think we covered every possible angle of attack on this topic, Monty. We just hammer it.
That's it.
Exhaustively until it's done. Hopefully you found it useful and are inspired maybe to make some of these tokens, make it easy on yourself, on your buddies. I mean, it's not a complicated game, but why not? Just make it easier.
Yeah.
And if you have any tokens that you use currently, but that we didn't talk about, I'd be curious to hear what possible tokens you could come up with that we haven't used. What I would like to hear is people's cool diorama fatigues. So I haven't done that before, Monty, just because I would be so anal retentive that I'd need like 20 corpses, to cover all the fatigues that I need. It's tough then. You can't really stack them either. So for your tokens, having the fatigue to be able to be stacked is pretty big. Monty, have you seen anybody just use dice for their fatigue? What did you think of that? Like different colored dice?
Yeah, I have, and it's a problem because then you roll your dice into those other dice. Yeah, right. Not ideal, but that's usually not very often. And at the other end, I've also seen people do very fancy, like 1 shield's down, 2 shields, 3 shields, and it takes a little time. I mean, those shields are hand painted; they're not transfers, so very nice. And nice kind of blends in to the whole battlefield effect. So there are some nice diorama things that people have done out there.
Yeah, like you said, I think some colorful shields, like painted shields. I think that would probably look best on the battlefield. I know with Age of Magic's so nutty with all the fatigue that you need so I'll use my fatigue tokens for the troops, but I don't have enough, so I just use like the glass beads for the monsters. So that's kind of another way I keep track of my different piles of fatigue in Age of Magic. You're definitely going to have some piles in Age of Magic for sure. Especially if you're playing Monty, because your monsters will get to 4, and then they'll just be good. They'll be unkillable at that
rest
point.
Rest the game. Can't tip them over.
So, okay, well, that was fun, Bonnie.
Yep.
We did it.
We did it. Another one in the books.
No, I think it is. I jumped the gun a couple months ago, but I think it is your 1-year anniversary. Isn't it? I think it is.
Yes, it is. August. It is the 1 year.
So I'm sorry, Monty. I don't have like a ring or a necklace or anything for you. A medallion of power. But next time I see you, I'll load you up with some more beverages. It's the least I can do for you.
That's amazing.
Thank you for doing these.
This is a blast for me.
Helps keep things kind of automated on track for me. I lose my mind here from time to time, so having this monthly chance to talk Saga with you is great, and hopefully we've got more of these on the way. At any point, if you do want to stop, Monty, that is okay. I'll just throw that out there. No compulsion. There might be some comments from people. I will say that, Monty, but no hard feelings for me. So thank you for doing this. It's fun, and hopefully we'll keep it going.
Yeah.
In the future here, I do have Undead Faction review coming out next week, Monty.
Nice.
Talking with John Talby from New Zealand, but otherwise probably going forward it's just mainly going to be these monthly videos for the foreseeable future.
Sure.
Just a heads up for folks. If you have ideas for topics for us to discuss, if you weren't engrossed in the token discussion, then feel free to select your own topic. We'll tackle it. Yeah. I would not be opposed, Monty, maybe like a mini faction review, like a 15-minute review of a faction. What do you think of that?
We could do that. Yeah.
Not the play-by-play,
yeah,
but more so along the lines of Hercus Monty. He's doing these crusade ones that are shorter, but he also had ones prior to that, which were 10 to 15 minute. These are what do you want to look for when you're playing these guys? So if you have a suggestion on faction out there, post below. Hopefully Monty or I play that faction. That's always the challenge with those. But Monty, you lay it out there. He'll paint them up and get a couple games in all within a few weeks before the next episode airs. So I wouldn't hold it past them. But
no pressure.
No pressure at all.
We can do it.
Yeah. So yeah, we might go that route for a while, but we do got a couple more kind of general ideas for things here. So, but if you have any ideas, post below. But otherwise, I think that's it, buddy.
That's
what do you
it.
say? Signing off. Thank you, guys. Talk to
See
you
you
next
guys.
time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Saga.